All right, everyone. Kelly commentates here. The third Grand Prix of the season, Grand Prix de France, is now over, and we can look forward to the next wonderful weekend of ice skating with NHK Trophy in Japan next weekend. My head was kind of spinning. I was reeling from Grand Prix de France, but I've kind of finally had a chance to reflect, kind of slow down and think about the whole competition as a whole. It was definitely an interesting competition for sure. I will say that a lot of the chatter online, it's very skewed negative, which I understand. I do get it when people are fed up with the scores. But to me personally, I understand that ice skating is a subjective sport. It's a judged sport, just like gymnastics. And unfortunately, depending on the year, depending on the season, depending on honestly the rules that the ISU sets forth, the judging kind of ebbs and flows, and it's like a pendulum that swings back and forth in terms of, what they're going to reward, what they're looking for. Does the basics of the sport remain the same? Of course it does. There's always going to be combination jumps. There's always going to be triples, quads, artistic things that they're looking for. Are they skating on their edges? Are they getting the revolutions on their spins? But overall, it just goes back and forth, and what is rewarded and what isn't often changes. With that being said, I still love figure skating despite the scores or the placements. I try to look past the frustration and just believe in the athletes and what they're putting forth. And again, I just think figure skating is the most unique combination of artistry, sport, and very, very high intensity of what they're trying to do. So in that way, I try to keep it positive and move it right along. Thinking back to the ladies' event and just reflecting on it, something that really stuck out to me and that is so different from the past years since Russia was banned for the invasion of Ukraine is that all of the podium is over the age of 20 years old. Our winner, Amber Glenn, is 25 years old. Wakaba Higuchi, I believe, is 23, and Rion Sumiyoshi in third place is over 20. I believe she's 21. And if you remember, the sport recently changed in the past few years, the age requirement for seniors. You have to be at least 17 years old to skate in seniors. And it was just nice to see that women's skating, which is, more mature, is coming out on top, and that it does prove that you can be quote unquote older in the sport and still have success and, climb up the ranks, so to speak. So I think just overall that the change to making the senior age 17 has had the effect that they were looking for. Obviously, there's a wide range. We have a lot of youngsters in 4th through 6th with Cheon Kim, Sarah Everhart, and Nina Pinzarone. I believe they're all under 18. And we need those younger skaters. They are the future of the sport. It is so exciting to see them, and they should win and be rewarded if they, do, and if they perform the jumps and the programs and get the PCS that they need, and obviously we rely on fair judging to do that. So I'm not pretending that there isn't sometimes some subjectivity to it, but overall really nice to see here that I think the change in the sport has occurred. So nice to see Adam Xiaohim Fa back here in his home country taking home the win. Again, a lot of chatter that people were disappointed that such a quote-unquote poor skate was rewarded with the win. But I mean, if you look at it, the men struggled here, and a lot of it boiled down to people recovering from injuries. I know Kazuki Tomono, Nikolaj Memola, Lucas Britschke, just to name a few, have had recent injuries. Boyang Jin has had injuries in the past. I mean, when you factor all of that in, I think it's very relevant. And one thing that really stuck out to me about the men's event is that it's too difficult. I just think that because of the kind of necessity of doing quads to really rise up the ranks, it's just proving too difficult. Some of the men's bodies are falling apart, and I think that is one area that the sport could change. It would be nice if, especially for the men, or I don't know if there'd be a way to do that, could be rewarded a little bit more for artistry, or if we could increase the base value of some of the artistic elements. That might work. Just something to encourage men not only to do quads, but to do interesting sequences or combinations, to have clean skates, and, to rely on consistency. I think that would be really nice to see. And I think the men's event here was just demonstrative of having that need here in the sport. I gotta say, pairs really excited me here. I know there's fewer pairs in general, so, there's generally less entries. But for me, Conti and Matti from Italy really had the skate of the night. I just think they had really beautiful sequences. I think they had really beautiful moves. Their triple twist got a level 4 and had a huge grade of execution. They had some really interesting lifts. I loved their program music. It was like Papa Can You Hear Me by Barbra Streisand, and the commentator did say that song meant something to them, so really enjoyed seeing them here as well. Thank goodness in ice dance that Lopareva and Brissard, the compatriots from France, were able to take home the win here in their home country. I think that was so exciting. I liked seeing Guinard and Fabry here again, and even though their score was not astronomical, it was good to see them again. I really do enjoy their free program or free dance to Robot Boys songs. I think it really is just kind of fun and silly, and that is one thing that I love about ice dance. Something interesting about Italian skaters is I believe they are required to do like police or military service, and there's something with that that is involved in ice skating as well. I haven't looked into it fully, and this is just freeform unfiltered ice chat, so don't come at me, for not knowing, but it is interesting. I noticed that their zip up sweaters or their jackets they wear after competing have polizei or police on them, like an emblem. So kind of interesting. I know that Carolina Kostner, famous Italian skater, also did her police service before as well. Let's go ahead and talk about NHK Trophy and who we're going to be seeing here. From Austria, we have Olga Mukutina. We did see her at Skate America, not having quite the skate she wanted, getting 9th place there. Doesn't really have a shot at making the Grand Prix final, but definitely hoping for some good scores for her here. We're also going to be seeing Nina Petrokina from Finland. She is going to be doing 2 back-to-back competitions, first here at NHK, and then the next weekend in her home country for Grand Prix of Finland. We're also going to be seeing Laura Naki-Gutman from Italia. This is her only Grand Prix of the season. I really like this skater, and I'm excited to see how she does here. She skates in the free program to Wayward Sisters from Nocturnal Animals and The Sheltering Sky by Ryuichi Sakamoto. Her choreography is by Stefan Lambiel, who I also really like. All right, from Japan, which is definitely having the strongest showing in the Grand Prix events. I think I read they've received 6 or 7 of the 9 medals so far in this season. We're going to be seeing Yuna Aoki here, Monet Chiba, and again, our world champion Kyori Sakamoto, hoping to have a good showing here as well. From Poland, we're going to have Ekaterina Kurakova for the second time. We're going to be able to see her Cats long program, which I'm definitely a fan of. Check out my channel if you haven't seen it so far. From South Korea, we're going to have Kim Ye-rim and Wee So-young again. They both did not have very good showings at their recent Grand Prix, so I'm sure that they're going to want to improve here. Especially Kim Ye-rim, I really, really like her skating and am hoping that she can have a better skate here than she did at Skate Canada. It's going to be quite the showdown for the American women, particularly between Brady Tennell and Alyssa Liu here to see who comes out on top or who gets closer to a podium finish. Brady Tennell had a slightly disappointing 5th place finish at Skate America, and Alyssa Liu had a 6th place finish at Skate Canada. We're also going to be having Lindsay Thorngren here, who we haven't seen on the Grand Prix yet this season. She's going to be doing 2 back-to-back Grand Prix, so this weekend at NHK Trophy, and then the following weekend at Grand Prix of Finland. Let's go ahead and move on to the men. And from Azerbaijan, we're going to be seeing Vladimir Litvintsev. He had a 5th place finish at Skate Canada, so I'm sure that he will want to improve upon that result here. From Canada, we're going to see Steven Gogolev again. He will be looking to improve upon his 9th place finish from Skate Canada, and I'm hoping that he has a great competition here. From Israel, we're going to be seeing Mark Gorodnitsky here. He'll be looking to improve upon his 10th place finish at Skate Canada, and so this will be his last Grand Prix of the season. From Italy, we're going to have Gabriele Frangipani, Daniel Grassel, and Matteo Rizzo. I don't think we've seen Daniel Grassel yet on the Grand Prix series this season. He did get 4th place at the recent Dennis 10 Memorial, so I'm sure that he's going to be anxious to get out on the Grand Prix circuit. We're going to see him at NHK Trophy and then the following weekend at Grand Prix of Finland. All right, the Japanese men, we're going to have an exciting competition here. We are going to have Yuma Kageyama. He got 2nd place at Lombardia Trophy over the summer, but this is his first Grand Prix event. We will also see him the following weekend at Grand Prix of Finland. We're also going to have Kawamura, who's going to be looking to improve upon his 3rd place finish at Skate America. And then we will also see Tatsuya Tsuboi. From South Korea, we'll be seeing Lim Joo-hun. And from the United States, we'll have Jason Brown and Tomoki Hiwatashi. Let's move on to pairs. From Georgia, we'll see Metelkina and Burulava. Hake and Kunkel from Germany, who we just saw at the recent Skate Canada Grand Prix, where they got 4th place. We're also going to be seeing Vaipanla and Digby from Great Britain. And from Japan, we'll have Mira and Kihara, and Nagaoka and Moriguchi. From Lithuania, we'll have Danilova and Siba. And from the United States, we'll have 2 pairs, Cam and O'Shea, our national champions, and Isabel Martins and Ryan Bedard. I don't think I have seen any programs from Martins and Bedard, so that will be very fun to see. In ice dance, we're going to have a Finnish team of Yuka Orihara and Juho Pirinen. I really like this team, and I'm excited to see what they put out here. From France, we will have 2 teams. We'll have Demogat and Mercier, and Dupayage and Nabai. From Germany, we're going to have Janse van Rensburg and Stefan. From Japan, we'll have Tanaka and Nishiyama, and Yoshida and Morita. From Lithuania, we'll have Reed and Ambrulevicius. I'm sorry, that's so hard to say. And then from the United States, we will have 3 pairs, Carrera and Ponomarenko, Chalk and Bates, and Green and Parsons. I am really excited. I am so excited to see Green and Parsons. They are my favorite U.S. dance team, and that is not a popular opinion, but I just love them so much. I love Carolyn Green's expression. I love Michael Parsons' skating, and there's kind of been a little rivalry matchup between them and Carrera and Ponomarenko for that kind of 3rd spot. Carrera and Ponomarenko had a really good Worlds last year, breaking 200 and kind of like surpassing Green and Parsons. So I'm super excited to see this matchup. Green and Parsons haven't performed on the Grand Prix yet this year. They did perform at a competition recently. I haven't watched the videos. It was Trophée Métropole Nice. I guess that's probably in France. And they got 2nd place there. So they're going to be at NHK Trophy, and then 2 weeks later, they'll be at Cup of China, the last Grand Prix before the Grand Prix final. So depending how well they do here, it's going to be really important for them if they are hoping to possibly make it to the Grand Prix final. But we'll go ahead and talk about the Grand Prix final next. All right, so now that we've had 3 Grand Prix finished, we do know that some skaters have already made it to the Grand Prix final. It is a math calculation, so for each placement you get a certain number of points, and then those points add up to place you, I believe the top 6 from each discipline get to go to the Grand Prix final, which is a few weeks after the last Grand Prix competition, Cup of China, and this year the Grand Prix final is going to go back to France, and it'll be in Grenoble, France this time. Let's go ahead and talk about pairs first and kind of work our way back. I mean, obviously, Mira and Kihara are here at NHK Trophy. They should be able to cinch a spot in the Grand Prix final. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Also, surprisingly to me at least, I've really enjoyed seeing them this season, is Cam and O'Shea from the US. They will likely do well enough here to go ahead and clinch their spot. Haase and Volodin from Germany are likely to make the final, as are Canadians and one of my favorite teams, Diana Stellato-Dudek and Maxime Deschamps from Canada. In ice dance, it's pretty safe to say that barring some kind of crazy meltdown, which we haven't really seen, Chalk and Bates should make the Grand Prix final, as should Gillis and Poirier from Canada, and Lajoie and Laga from Canada as well. With the matchup of Carrera and Ponomarenko and Green and Parsons, both this weekend at NHK and again at the last competition, Cup of China, before the Grand Prix finale, it's going to be really important how both of these teams do and how they stack up against the rest of the field if they want a kind of outside chance of making the Grand Prix final. Fear and Gibson from Britain should be safely secured. They're a wonderful team and will definitely be able to make that Grand Prix final. They got first at Skate America, and we're going to see them again in 2 weeks at Grand Prix of Finland. Let's go ahead and talk about the women here. Kieri Sakamoto should do enough here to at least get on the podium, and with her first place finish at Skate Canada, that should be enough to get her to the Grand Prix final. Wakaba Higuchi with her gold and silver is also a lock for the Grand Prix final. I wasn't sure if I'd say that earlier in the year, so it is such a relief, and I just hope she secretly wins, or at least gets on the podium at Grand Prix final. Of the remaining Japanese women, it's kind of a toss-up. It should be very competitive, and I expect we're probably going to see 4 of the 6 skaters be from Japan. The only person who I think is pretty much out at this point is Yuna Aoki, seeing as she got a 7th place finish at Skate America, so that probably takes her out of contention, as well as Mai Mihara, only getting 7th place at Grand Prix de France. Grand Prix of Finland will be super exciting because we're going to have quite the matchup with Rino Matsuke and Hana Yoshida, both having a chance to make it to the Grand Prix final, depending on their placements. And then at Cup of China, Rion Sumiyoshi and Rinko Watanabe will have a very competitive showdown at Cup of China. In the men, Ilya Melanin has already secured his spots, getting gold in the first 2 Grand Prix of the season. I think Yuma Kageyama as well is pretty hard not to see him making to the Grand Prix final. Adam Xiao-Him-Fa got himself some leeway room because he did get a gold at this weekend's Grand Prix de France. Adam and Shun Sato will have a showdown at Cup of China, and I do think that Shun Sato, since he has a silver from Skate Canada, should pretty much be a lock as well. Who are you guys excited for? And if scores meant nothing, who would you have at the Grand Prix final? I think that the Grand Prix final is sort of like a mini Worlds, but obviously it is more difficult to make since, although Worlds is very hard to make too, there's more skaters at Worlds. So Grand Prix final is only 6 skaters. So you know that the winner and the podium will come from those 6 skaters. Historically, I've always really liked the NHK Trophy. I feel like Japan is one of the countries that has the most popularity with figure skating, and I just think that their excitement for it really shows in anything down to the kiss and cry, to the crowds, which are usually quite large, and their enthusiasm for cheering on the sport. I have read and kind of heard online that since Yuzuru Hanyu retired, it has died in popularity a little bit, but I still think that just support-wise and monetarily and financially, Japan is still having one of the strongest federations currently, and, their results show for that. It is exciting, too, to see Japan kind of build in pairs in ice dance, where they were formerly, not the strongest, but having a world-class pair who has been a world champion, and also having some ice dance teams starting to make a little bit of waves. I think that's really great for the federation. The location of the final changes quite often. It looks like almost every year. The past couple years, it's been in Beijing and in Turin, Italy. And then it was canceled the previous 2 seasons due to the pandemic. The last time it was in France looks like 2016 in Marseille. I don't think it's ever been in Grenoble, although I believe the Grand Prix series, like just their normal Grand Prix, not the final, has been in Grenoble before, to my knowledge. So it'll be interesting to see. I think France did a good job hosting the Grand Prix de France, so I am excited to see the finale this December. It's always kind of like, the end of the first part of the season and the beginning of the next half of the season, where we're going to be having the national championships. Japan's is always exciting because, if I remember correctly, theirs and Russia's is always really close to Christmas, with, I think, Japan performing sometimes on Christmas. So I know that Christmas is not as big of a holiday in Japan, so it does kind of make sense. But it honestly is like a little Christmas gift to us, the viewers, because we do get to watch beautiful skating. I always look forward to U.S. nationals as well. They're usually in early to mid-January. Next year, they're going to be in Wichita, Kansas, which feels entirely random. I'm not going to be going to that one. It's just not a location that I'm particularly crazy about. And, although the location doesn't matter necessarily, you're still having to travel there. And I'm going to pass on that this year, but still will be fun to see. And then in the latter half of the season after that, you have Europeans, which is a huge championship. You have 4 continents, and then you have Worlds. And it's really like leading to the second half of the season is getting towards the end. And then the season after that is the Olympic season. So it is such an exciting time for skating. And let me know, who are you excited about? Which are your favorite skaters? And who would you have make the Grand Prix final if the placements were not anything to worry about? Thank you so much for watching. As always, this is Kelly Commentates, over and out.